Let me start with your own thoughts on what you witnessed.
Well, like the rank and file and the whole body of the NDC members have stated, disappointment in terms of the breach of faith in the expected behavior of the minority or some members of the minority caucus of the NDC in Parliament. But it's not restricted to the NDC alone. There were other disappointed persons in the general Ghanaian public who expected that at least a semblance of loyalty to the party line would be adopted. So I'm equally disappointed, but not surprised. I'm not surprised because the act of betrayal that we witness in some members of the minority breaking ranks is just a mirror image of the behavioral orientation of Ghanaians in general. How many times have we not seen many Ghanaians breaking ranks with the public opinion regarding such things as galamsey and so on and so forth? It happens. The causal factors must be the points we must analyze. Why is it that our efforts at nation building for the past 66 years have not yielded the requisite results? Why has individualism and materialism taken hold of our behavior that every time we betray the public interest and the collective goals? These are some of the important factors we must always consider for analysis.
So to you, this is just not about the NDC minority. It's a bigger statement on the Ghanaian when you need them to stand up for what is important.
Exactly. The ease with which we break the public trust and expectations, the ease with which we do not necessarily identify with the public interest, but rather we sell the public interest at the altar of individualism and sheer opportunism. But with the NDC in particular, it has, or what happened last Friday is one time too many. There have been several acts of betrayal within the NDC. So it puts up the question, is the NDC just a bandwagon party that is available for opportunists to climb on? Or do they have any alternative in terms of organization? The NDC, if we have observed over the years, lack a very strong ideological foundation. Hence, its bandwagon nature, available for opportunists to climb on. And that is the major organizational problem for the party.
But these are MPs. Some of them have been in Parliament for so long. At what point in time does somebody who joins a party as an opportunist then take up at least realizing that the interests of the party at some point must be protected?
Well, individualism is a very strong behavioral orientation that is very difficult to remove, especially when you have a very powerful political climate that emphasizes such individualism. Look at the NPP. They clearly avow to the principle of individualism and materialism. It was clearly discernible during Kufuor's administration when they preached property-owning democracy. The emphasis was on individualism and materialism. And this is where the NDC should organize itself to distance itself from this ideological precept of the NPP. And this is where we have not been able to do that. And that's why I said it's a national phenomenon. A national phenomenon and indeed a national disaster to the extent that it has thwarted our efforts at nation building. Sometimes we say that this is part of the colonial legacy, which emphasized liberalism at the expense of socialism. A developing country has no room for individualism and materialism. The NDC, ideologically, should stand for my brother's keeper. But we don't. It's each one for himself and God for us all, which is a pity. You can't build a nation on the basis of individualism and materialism. You can't.
Let me take it back to the matter in question. Of course, I'll come back to how the NDC then can deal with that. But why is this so important? Because I have somebody from the NDC, a sympathizer, who called me and said, why are they still on this? You have given the man 4 years. Give them whatever it is he is demanding for in order to be able to do his job. Approve the appointees. Why was it important that the NDC took that position?
When the man is driving the vehicle deeper and deeper into a ditch, you don't allow him to destroy whatever opportunities are left for a vessel before you say, when the 4 year is due, we will kick him out. By the time you kick him out, the damage has been done, and the damage will be irreparable. That is also a logical aspect of the situation that must be taken into consideration. You don't allow a bad situation to get worse beyond repair. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Doc. The suggestion has also been that, because I listened to an argument made by one of the members of the minority who suggests that there are different people who voted on different grounds. He said, yes, some of them might have been compromised in terms of something being promised to them, but there were others who voted, he said, on principle.
Yes.
Do you see the position where somebody could vote for these people on principle?
Oh, yes. The principle is the party line. The principle relates to the arguments that were advanced for rejecting the nominees in the public interest. Was it in the public interest, or is it in the public interest that this president should continue to tax the public purse for regime interest? Should the public purse be used for national interest or for regime interest? That is also a question. The moral question that must be discussed. Sure, he has a 4-year mandate, but should we wait till he dissipates all the public purse before we say enough is enough? There is a point in time at which enough becomes enough before the expiration of his term. So then, the public interest reigns supreme, and in principle becomes incumbent upon all those who are opposed to the way and manner our country is being governed. And to use the word governed is perhaps to be charitable. We are being ruled. This man is a fascist. fascist. Every act of his signifies fascism.
Let me then quote you what an MPP MP told me. He said, well, think about it. All these persons who are being nominated to these positions are MPs. They can decide to be on their MP salary. How much at all does it cost to run to manage a minister? That if you put him there, they are still on their MP salary and enjoying the conditions of MPs. What is the worry?
There is always also a top-up, not only in monetary terms relative to the salary, but also in terms of the privileges and perks that come with the position of an MP. And if you analyze those, you will find that they are even more expensive than the salary of an MP. When you are appointed a minister, the cost to the nation is higher than when you are just an MP.
A lot of people you speak to within the NDC are angry about this. Some of them are already ruling out their chances of winning 2024. What do you say?
Well, I say that the NDC has a Herculean task of regaining the public trust and keeping it up to 2024. But that is a task they must perform. It's not easy when repeatedly you break that public trust. First, you broke it in 2021 when Kenneth Orata and others were nominated for ministerial appointment. You voted them in, you approved it, contrary to the expectations that you have generated in the public domain that you are going to reject them.
Ghana's gold.
And then you repeat the same behavior in the Friday parliamentary voting on the nominees. So already you put the public trust in jeopardy. And this is where your organizational abilities must come to the fore. It is imperative that the NDC party get the traitors and expose them publicly. They should, if they want to regain the public trust, they must expose the traitors. They must.
How do they do that?
Oh, I'm sure they have means. Many of those who voted took pictures of how they voted. So by a process of elimination, you narrow the field and you can identify those who betray the cause.
But how do they, because you said they have a Herculean task of regaining the public trust and keeping it to 2024. How do they do that when you have members who are already crestfallen? In fact, somebody was just saying that even going to a branch meeting was difficult for him.
I know, because of the anger of the grassroots, the anger of the rank and file members of the party. But that does not excuse you from performing the task of regaining the public trust, because that's why you are a political party. You should be able to regain that trust on the basis of good impression management. Because in the last analysis, politics is about impression management. You must show that you can hold your members in line so that when the public trust you and give you power, you will be able to stick to your principles upon which you mounted your campaign platform.
Will that include not making the promises they have made over the years, at least over the 2 years, and failed?
All those are part of the basket of the task that you have to perform. to regain the public trust.
And let me conclude by asking you, you talk about the fact that the NDC needs to look different or stand far from the NPP.
Yes.
In fact, it's your friend Dr. Percy who keeps saying that the two parties are starting to resemble each other. It's like as if the NPP is the NDC is trying to be a bad copy of the NPP. What does the NDC need to do?
I said so as far back as the year 2009 in an interview on Radio Gold with Obobia. And I said that the party, in terms of the results of the 2008 elections, have created the impression of similarity between them and the MPP. Now, let me tell you a story. In 2009, January 2009, the Youth Forum of the NDC decided to hold a post-victory forum at Takoradi Poly, to which I was invited to deliver a paper on democratic socialism and the way forward for the NDC. Barely 15 minutes into the delivery of my paper, I could see that the leadership or the organizers were not comfortable from the purely ideological stand that I have decided should be my perspective. Because I decided on that perspective because you needed to tutor your followers on the ideological precepts of the party so that you do not create expectations which are not favorable to your philosophical and ideological stand. Luckily for me, because of the respect of the audience, I was allowed to leave the platform 15 minutes into my delivery and sit down to listen to the others. And what happened afterwards showed me how ideologically bereft the party was. For a victory forum, and a forum that was meant to more or less acquaint the rank and file members with the ideological precepts of the party, the speakers went on bashing the MPP. After defeating them, why was there a need to use that platform to bash? What are you bashing them for? The campaign is over.
Ghana's gold.
Well, they didn't listen to me. Within months, we had this upsurge of grassroots people going to invade state properties, road tolls and so on and so forth, NHIS offices asking the occupants to vacate and leave it to the NDC. Where did that come from? It even led to the point at which Kwabena said that there are no foot soldiers in NDC in an attempt to stem the tide. But the damage has been done. The mimicking of the behavior of MPP supporters have already taken place within the NDC. Since then, with the change of every government comes a new class of people who believe that their party is in power and therefore all state property must be redefined as party property. This is bad for nation building. Ghana cannot develop on this basis, on this circulation of elites and changing of the guard and destruction of public property and so on and so forth. That's not the way Kwame Nkrumah aimed this country to be. And for those who constantly berate Kwame Nkrumah, oh God, we will never have any leader as wise and forward-looking as Kwame Nkrumah. The people who overthrew this constructive leader are the people now in power, destroying the country. destroying every vestige of progress. The foundations that Nkrumah laid have been thrown away. And I do not mean just the infrastructural foundations. I mean the political, ideological foundations. The concept that the black man is capable of managing his own affairs have been thrown away. Now we go begging people abroad for debt forgiveness. Kufuor administration gained from 66% of our foreign debt forgiveness, and yet it ended up indebting the country again. There is no social intervention policy that was rolled out by Kufuor that was not supported, sponsored by foreign money. Not one social intervention policy that was not supported by foreign government. And yet, today he's hailed as the person who intervened in implementing social intervention policies. The NDC communication machinery is certainly bereft in this way. We do not know what to say at the right moment. We do not know how to behave at the right moment. Every time the MPP trends for bad reasons, the NDC must also go and trend for the same bad reasons. Where is the country being led to? Where are the ideological foundations of the party? How many of the leadership of the NDC identify with the ideological foundations of the party?